Ladies, let's get real. Men don't miss what's always right there. They don't value what's always easy. And they sure as hell don't chase what they think they already own. I know you've been taught to text first, call first, plan first, give first, love first, until you're running on empty. But here's the truth. The moment you chase, you lose the game. The power isn't in clinging. It's in stepping back, letting him feel the absence and showing him what life looks like without you constantly by his side. See, a lot of women don't realize how much their presence impacts a man. He gets used to your voice, your laughter, your support, and your energy. He gets comfortable with your attention, your patience, your care. And the moment that comfort becomes routine, he stops noticing it. He stops appreciating it. He stops putting in the effort. But when you pull back, when you stop overgiving, when you start living fully for yourself, suddenly he feels the difference. Suddenly he starts thinking, wondering, questioning, wait, what did I just take for granted? This isn't about playing games. This isn't about manipulation or tricks. It's about holding your standards, protecting your energy, and letting your absence show him your worth. Because men don't chase what's guaranteed. They chase what feels valuable, rare, and earned. And today, I'm going to teach you the power moves that make any man stop, think, and miss you like crazy, even if he's drifting away. So buckle up, ladies, because this mindset shift will change the way he sees you forever. Step back to pull forward. When a man starts pulling away, most women feel this sudden wave of panic rise up in their chest. You start noticing the shift. The text gets shorter. The effort gets lighter. The calls become rare, and that man who used to cling to your presence now seems like he's slowly drifting into the background. And the first instinct most women have is to grab on tighter. You think, maybe if I call him more, he'll come closer. Maybe if I explain my feelings, he'll understand. Maybe if I show him how much I care, he'll snap out of it. But let me tell you something from real life, from experience, from watching how men behave. Chasing a man who's pulling away is like pushing a door marked pull. The harder you push, the more stuck it gets. The more pressure you apply, the more resistance you create. Men don't respond to panic. They respond to peace. They don't respond to chasing. They respond to absence. And they don't respond to emotional scrambling. They respond to emotional confidence. When you step back instead of stepping forward, you're not losing him. You're giving him space to find his way back to you. Think of it like this. A man can't miss what's constantly in front of him. He can't appreciate a woman who's always available, always pouring in, always giving, even when he's not giving anything back. The moment he starts feeling like he's guaranteed your presence, he starts taking it for granted. Not because he's evil, not because he's ungrateful, but because human nature leans toward comfort. And when comfort isn't balanced with desire, people get lazy. Stepping back is not about punishment. It's not about silent treatment. It's not about making him jealous with games or manipulating his emotions. Stepping back is an act of self-respect. It's a moment where you say, I'm not going to chase someone who's not meeting me where I am. I'm not lowering my standards. I'm not shrinking myself to keep someone close. It's choosing yourself, your dignity, your peace over chaos. It's pressing pause on giving energy to someone who's not reciprocating it. When you do that, something shifts, not just in him, but in you. Suddenly, you're not reacting emotionally. You're responding with confidence. You're not stuck trying to hold something together by yourself. You're allowing the relationship to breathe. Men feel distance. They may not say it. They may pretend they don't care, but trust me, they feel it. The moment your energy shifts, he senses it. The moment you're not instantly available, he notices. The moment you stop doing the emotional heavy lifting, he feels the absence, and that absence wakes him up. Because men understand value through contrast. When things get quiet, when you're not chasing, not calling, not explaining, not begging, the silence becomes loud. It makes him aware of what he's losing. It makes him question his own behavior. It makes him realize that the comfort he Once had is no longer guaranteed. Your step back gives him the opportunity to recalibrate. It gives him the space to miss your presence, your softness, your laughter, your attention, all the things he got so used to that he forgot to appreciate. Without that step back, he never gets the chance to reconnect with the feeling of wanting you. You have to remember something powerful. Desire grows in space, not in suffocation. Attraction grows in absence, not in presence overload. When you step back, you're creating the emotional room needed for him to come forward willingly, not out of pressure. And trust me, when a man comes forward by his own choice, he comes with sincerity, intention, and clarity. But here's the part most women don't expect. Stepping back doesn't just change him, it changes you. It reminds you that your worth isn't tied to how much effort you give in a relationship. It brings you back to yourself. You start focusing on your life, your joy, your priorities, instead of centering everything around him. And when your focus shifts back to you, your energy becomes magnetic again. You're no longer acting from fear. You're acting from confidence. You're not trying to force connection. You're letting it breathe naturally. This creates a dynamic where he comes forward because he wants to, not because you beg for his attention. The truth is, any relationship built on fear or desperation will crumble. But a relationship built on mutual desire and balanced effort, that's where real connection lives. And the first step toward building or rebuilding that balance is stepping back when he pulls away. Not as a test, not as manipulation, but as a recalibration of energies. You're allowing him to feel what life is like without your warmth right next to him every moment. You're letting him sit in the quiet and actually realize the comfort you brought to his world. So when he pulls away, don't chase, don't panic, don't grip tighter, step back, breathe, ground yourself, give him the room to come to his senses, and watch how, in that space, he starts moving towards you, not out of fear, but out of recognition of your true value. That's how you pull a man forward, not by force, but by confidently stepping back. Stop being too available. One of the biggest mistakes women make, and they don't even realize they're doing it, is being too available, too emotion, ally available, too physically available, too mentally available, too instantly available. And at first glance, it seems harmless. You care about him. You want the connection to grow. You want to show interest, affection, and consistency. But what you don't realize is this: availability without balance leads to comfort without effort. A man cannot miss what he never has to wait for. He cannot appreciate what he never has to work for. When you hand over your time, your energy, your presence on a silver platter without requiring anything in return, you unintentionally teach him that your availability is automatic, not earned. Let's be real. Men are wired to chase, to pursue, to conquer goals, to earn what they value. That's not a gender theory. That's human nature with a competitive twist. When something comes too easily, the sense of urgency disappears. When it's always there, the sense of value decreases. When it requires no effort, the emotional investment stays low. Think about it. If every time he calls, you pick up on the first ring, if every time he texts, you respond in seconds, if every time he asks to see you, you drop your entire schedule, you're signaling to him that your world revolves around him. You're signaling that he doesn't need to try. And trust me, if a man feels he doesn't need to try, he stops trying altogether. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about pretending to be busy when you're not. This is about creating a life that's full of activities, full of passion, full of purpose, full of people, full of priorities that don't disappear just because a man shows up. A woman with her own life is attractive. A woman who isn't waiting by the phone is mysterious. A woman whose schedule matters is respected. When you're not overly available, you communicate without speaking a single word that your time is valuable. And the moment a man sees that your time has value, he starts treating it with value. You have to understand something powerful. Instant access kills curiosity. When he knows he can reach you anytime, he stops wondering about you. When he knows you'll always say yes, he stops appreciating your yes. When he knows you'll always adjust, he stops making plans with effort. But when you pull back your availability, when you stop showing up instantly, when you stop rearranging your life to fit his schedule, that's when the dynamic shifts. Suddenly, he's not sure whether you'll pick up on the first ring. Suddenly, he's not sure you'll drop your plans. Suddenly, he has to think, how do I make sure she says yes? And that thought alone ignites desire. Let me paint it clearly. Your availability should match his effort, not his convenience. If he's inconsistent, your presence should not be consistent. If he's distant, your responses shouldn't be instant. If he's unsure, you shouldn't be overly sure. That's not being petty. That's being balanced. You're simply reflecting the energy he gives you instead of overgiving and hoping he'll eventually meet you where you are. When he sees that you're not chasing and not handing him unlimited access, he starts stepping up because he realizes he could lose the comfort he was taking for granted. And let me tell you something else. Men don't fall in love with convenience. They fall in love with value. They fall in love with women who have options, confidence, boundaries, and purpose. They fall in love with the women whose time feels special, not automatic. If you want a man to miss you, you have to create the emotional space where missing becomes possible. The T space is created by limiting your availability, not by withdrawing affection, not by ignoring him out of spite, but by naturally prioritizing your own life instead of centering everything on him. When you're too available, you unintentionally remove the thrill. You remove the pursuit. You remove the curiosity. You remove the unpredictability that keeps a man engaged, and you also remove the opportunity for him to step up because you've already stepped enough for both of you. Being less available forces him to move differently. He has to think ahead. He has to make plans. He has to follow through. He has to be intentional. And most importantly, he has to appreciate you because now he doesn't have endless access. You also allow him to feel the consequences of his actions. If he goes 2 days without texting, you don't respond with a paragraph. The moment he shows up, your time doesn't reset because he remembered you. Your emotional availability doesn't refill because he sent, hey. When you're not too available, he experiences the contrast between having you and not having you. And that contrast is where desire lives. That contrast is where appreciation grows. That contrast is where he starts thinking about you, missing you, and wondering what you're doing. Your absence becomes noticeable because your presence isn't guaranteed. So stop being too available, not to punish him, not to play mind games, but to protect your value. Make him rise to the occasion. Make him work for your time. Make him feel honored when he gets it. Because when your availability becomes a privilege instead of a guarantee, that's when he starts missing you like crazy. That's when effort returns. That's when the dynamic balances. And that's when you regain the power you never should have given away in the first place. Upgrade your life. Without him, there is something magnetic, powerful, and absolutely irresistible about a woman who is actively building a life she's proud of, regardless of who stays or who leaves. A woman who upgrades her life without waiting for a man's validation, without seeking his approval, without depending on his presence, becomes a force he cannot ignore. See, most women don't realize how deeply their energy shifts when they stop centering their world around a man and start centering it around their purpose, their growth, and their self-respect. When you upgrade your life without him, you are sending a message louder than any words you could speak. I'm not waiting on you to live. I'm not pausing my journey until you decide what you want. I'm moving forward. And if you want place in my world, you better keep up. Here's the truth. Nothing wakes a man up faster than seeing a woman evolve. When he sees you becoming happier, healthier, more focused, more fulfilled, and none of that progress is tied to him. It shakes something inside him. It forces him to look at you differently. He starts realizing that you're not stuck. You're not dependent. You're not frozen in place waiting for him to return. You're rising. You're leveling up. You're building your world brick by brick. And that energy is powerful because men admire women who move with confidence and purpose. They respect women who don't beg for attention, but attract attention through who they are and how they live. But let's be clear, upgrading your life isn't about pretending or performing. It's about genuinely investing in yourself. It's focusing on your goals, your dreams, your health, your friendships, your hobbies, your peace. It's reinventing areas of your life that why all may have neglected while trying to make a relationship work. Too many women put themselves on hold. They pause their passions. They shrink their ambitions. They put their happiness in the hands of someone who doesn't even realize the responsibility he's holding. When you shift that focus back to yourself, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are your biggest investment. And you remind him that you are not a woman who can be taken for granted. Let me tell you something important about men. They feel the difference between a woman who's waiting for him and a woman who's building herself. The woman who's waiting feels anxious, reactive, emotional, dependent. Her energy says, I need you to choose me so I can feel whole. But the woman who's building herself, she feels grounded. She feels steady. Her energy says, I'm whole with or without you. And if you want a place in my life, you better bring something real to the table. That energy is irresistible. That energy is mature. That energy makes him sit up straighter and pay attention. When you upgrade your life, you're not doing it to make him jealous or to force a reaction. You're doing it because you deserve a life that feels full, meaningful, exciting, and self-created. You deserve to wake up with a sense of purpose. You deserve hobbies that fill your soul. You deserve financial goals, personal growth, and emotional peace. When you pour into yourself, your glow changes. Your presence changes, your confidence deepens, and that glow is what makes a man miss you on a level he can't describe. A woman who is upgrading her life is unpredictable in the best way. She's not checking her phone every minute. She's not waiting for his messages. She's not revolving her day around his attention. She's out there experiencing life, working on her goals, going new places, learning new skills, meeting new people, improving her mindset. That unpredictability makes him wonder, what is she doing? Who is she becoming? How did she suddenly become this version of herself? And the more he wonders, the more his mind drifts back to you. That's how missing happens. Through intrigue, curiosity, admiration, and the fear of losing someone who's clearly growing. Men are competitive by nature. When he sees you leveling up, he starts comparing. He starts thinking, am I the kind of man who deserves a woman like that? And if he's losing you emotionally because he pulled away, your self-growth becomes the wake-up call he didn't expect. The moment he realizes you don't need him and you're still thriving, he feels the shift. He feels the distance. He feels the possibility of losing you to a better life, better opportunities, or even a better man. But the real magic is what happens inside you. When you start upgrading your life, you stop obsessing over him because you're too busy evolving. You stop overthinking his silence because you're too engaged with your own progress. You stop chasing emotional highs from him because you're creating stability within yourself. And that inner stability, that's what attracts real love. That's what commands respect. That's what makes a man see you as someone worth choosing, not someone settling for crumbs. So when he pulls away, don't collapse, don't pause your joy, don't press your life on hold, upgrade it, elevate it, build it. and watch how your glow becomes something he can't ignore, something he can't replace, something he can't forget. When you improve your life without him, he starts realizing just how lucky he was to have access to you and how foolish he was to think you'd stay the same while he drifted. Control your emotional energy. If you want a man to miss you, crave you, think about you, and feel your absence, the first place you have to get control of is not your actions, it's your emotional energy. Because a woman's emotions are powerful. They can draw a man closer or they can push him further away. They can create connection or they can create chaos. And the truth is, most relationships don't fall apart because of what a woman does. They fall apart because of how a woman feels and how those feelings spill into her words, her reactions, her tone, her energy. When your emotional energy is unbalanced, when you're anxious, panicked, insecure, or overwhelmed, a man feels it instantly, even if you never say a word. Men are not as emotionally expressive as women, but they are highly sensitive to emotional pressure. When your energy feels heavy, urgent, demanding, or desperate, it creates a weight he doesn't know how to carry. It makes him feel like he has to fix something, solve something, or give something he may not be ready to give. And that pressure makes him retreat. Not because he doesn't care, not because he wants to hurt you, but because emotional intensity can make a man feel trapped. That's why controlling your emotional energy is so important. It changes the entire tone of the relationship without you having to say a single sentence. Controlling your emotional energy doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It doesn't mean acting cold, distant, or heartless. It's about learning to ground yourself, calm your inner storm, and respond instead of react. When you learn emotional self-control, you stop handing a man the power to dictate your mood. You stop tying your happiness to whether he texts back, calls, makes plans, or acts a certain way. You shift from emotionally dependent to emotionally self-sufficient. And that is the moment a man feels your absence in a different way. Because here's the thing. When we're emotionally stable, you become predictable in the best way and mysterious in the right way. Predictable because you're not overreacting, you're not breaking down over every small change, you're not creating emotional storms he doesn't know how to navigate. Mysterious because he can't read you through chaos. He has to observe you through calm. A woman who is calm and centered is intriguing. She's difficult to shake. She's not thrown off by distance. And that confidence feels powerful to a man. It makes him curious. It makes him drawn in. It makes him miss the peace you bring. But when you allow your emotions to run wild, texting impulsively, over-explaining, confronting him out of fear, demanding reassurance, panicking the moment you feel a shift, you push him further away with energy that feels heavy. And afterward, you regret it. You start thinking, why did I say that? Why did I lose control? Because deep down, you already know emotional impulsiveness makes you feel powerless. And feeling powerless makes you chase. And chasing kills attraction. Controlling your emotional energy is really about controlling your internal dialogue. It's learning to pause before you respond. It's asking yourself, am I reacting from fear or from confidence? It's choosing silence when you're tempted to speak from a place of insecurity. It's reminding yourself that one distant text doesn't define your worth. It's choosing not to spiral the moment he seems distracted. When you control the emotional story you tell yourself, you control how you show up in the relationship. And here's the beautiful part. When your emotional energy is strong, balanced, and calm, he feels it even in your absence. He feels the difference between a woman who is emotionally chaotic and a woman who is emotionally mature. A man misses a woman who brings peace to his life, not one who brings pressure. He misses the woman who makes him feel understood, not overwhelmed. He misses the woman who knows how to hold her ground without losing her cool. And that emotional steadiness becomes unforgettable. When you control your emotional energy, you also protect your dignity. You stop begging. You stop repeating yourself. You stop trying to convince someone of your value. You stop over-investing in someone who is under-investing in you. You move with grace, intention, and self-respect. And that shift in energy creates a powerful contrast. He feels the difference when you pull away, not because you're angry, but because you're calm and choosing yourself. Men chase what feels emotionally safe, emotionally steady, emotionally attractive. They chase the woman who doesn't fall apart when things get uncertain. They chase the woman whose emotional energy feels like a breath of fresh air, not a storm they're trying to escape. So controlling your emotional energy is not just about keeping a man. It's about keeping yourself, your power, your clarity, your peace. When you master that, you become a woman he can't forget, a woman he can't easily replace, and a woman he will miss deeply because your energy, calm, confident, and self-assured, becomes a rare experience in his life. Don't give him the benefits without the commitment. A lot of women don't realize this, but one of the biggest reasons a man becomes lazy, distant, and inconsistent is because he's getting all the benefits of being in a relationship without actually being in one. And once a man realizes he can have your time, your attention, your support, your affection, and sometimes even your intimacy without ever stepping up, he will settle into that comfort like it's a luxury recliner. Men don't change comfort. They change when comfort is removed. That is why this step is crucial. When you stop giving a man the advantages of a committed woman while he's still acting like a casual man, you shift the entire dynamic. You stop investing where there is no return. You stop pouring into someone who hasn't earned the privilege. You stop creating a space where he benefits while you feel drained, confused, or unappreciated. Men value what they work for. That's not an insult, that's human nature. Anything handed too easily loses its shine. When you give too much too soon, he doesn't see it as generosity. He starts seeing it as a baseline. And once a man sees something as a baseline, he puts in less and less effort because he assumes it will always be there. That's how women end up feeling like they're in a relationship while the man is still thinking about it. You cooking for him, listening to his problems, comforting him after long days, giving him emotional support, letting him borrow your time, your energy, your presence. If he has all that without being your man, he has absolutely no reason to upgrade the situation. He's already receiving the reward without completing the assignment. This step is about pulling back those benefits, not as a punishment, but as self-respect. It's about telling yourself, my time is valuable, my heart is valuable, my support is valuable, my presence is valuable. When you hold your standard, you don't have to beg for effort. The right man will rise to meet it, the wrong man will fall away. Either outcome is a blessing. And the moment you stop giving wife-level love to a man who hasn't even shown boyfriend-level consistency, everything shifts. He starts to notice the difference immediately. He starts seeing the gap between what he gets and what he wants. And men do not chase women who overgive. They chase women who require effort, clarity, and intention. When you stop giving him access to your emotional world, he has to earn it. When you stop rearranging your schedule for him, he has to plan. When you stop being his personal therapist, emotional crutch, or late night entertainment, he's forced to step up if he wants to keep you in his life. Otherwise, you're simply giving him a life upgrade while he leaves you on emotional pending. Think about how many times you've given him more effort than he's ever given you. Think about the times you thought he'd appreciate your loyalty, your patience, your flexibility, your understanding, but instead he became even more distant. That's not because you weren't enough. It's because you were giving too much without requiring anything in return. Men appreciate what they contribute to. They attach meaning to what they invest in. If he invests nothing, he values nothing. If he earns nothing, he respects nothing. Your job is not to prove your worth, it's to protect it. When you stop giving the benefits, you give him the chance to show who he really is. Will he step up, claim you, and match your energy, or will he disappear because he was only there for convenience, comfort, or access? Either way, you win because now you're seeing the truth. Pulling back isn't manipulation, it's clarity. It's honoring your boundaries. It's showing him access to me is earned, not assumed. Because the woman who knows her worth doesn't give everything away at a discount. And let me tell you something important. When a man truly wants you, he doesn't get comfortable with bare minimum situations. He doesn't settle for almost. He doesn't sit back and enjoy the benefits while avoiding responsibility. No, a man who wants you will rise. He will clarify. He will commit. He will show it, not just say it, but he can only do that when he realizes there's a difference between being around you and having you, a difference between being entertained by you and being committed to you, a difference between enjoying your energy and being responsible with it. The moment you stop giving those benefits away freely, he feels that difference. And suddenly he has a choice, step up or step out. If he steps up, you get the man he is capable of being. If he steps out, you get the peace you deserve. Either way, choosing not to give benefits without commitment is how you protect your heart, your value, and your power. Let him feel the void of your presence. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she must realize that her presence is powerful. Not her words, not her arguments, not her explanations, her presence. And when a man has grown used to that presence, when he has enjoyed it, benefited from it, relied on it, or even taken it for granted, the absence of that presence speaks louder than anything she could ever say. Letting him feel the void of your presence isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate him. It's about allowing reality to do what your effort, your reminders, and your overthinking could never accomplish. It's about stepping back far enough for him to finally see what life looks like without your energy, your softness, your consistency, your laughter, your warmth, and your attention, because sometimes a man doesn't. Appreciate what you bring until it's no longer available to him on demand. Women often underestimate how deeply a man gets used to them, not necessarily in a romantic way, even in the smallest routines. He gets used to your good mornings. He gets used to your responses. He gets used to you checking in, comforting him, listening to his stories, or being the one he vents to after a bad day. Even if he never says it, even if he acts nonchalant, even if he seems distant, he feels it. He feels the familiarity, the reliability, the emotional security you bring to his world. And when you suddenly stop feeding that connection, when you stop initiating, when you stop chasing, when you stop showing up the way you always have, he notices. Even if he pretends not to, a man cannot miss what never leaves as long as you're always there, always available, always responding, always offering your presence. He never has to confront the truth. You were adding value to his life. Your energy made his days easier. Your voice softened his stress. Your attention boosted his confidence. Your existence brought him comfort. But comfort makes people blind. They forget the effort behind what they're receiving. They forget the rarity of the connection. They forget the privilege of having access to someone like you. So letting him feel your absence is not an act of spite. It is an act of clarity. It reveals the difference between what he truly values and what he only uses out of convenience. When you step back, something powerful happens. His mind starts to wander in ways it never did before. He checks his phone out of habit. He wonders what you're doing, who you're talking to, and why you're suddenly quiet. He replays old moments in his head. He remembers the way you made him feel, not just the things you did. He starts to feel the emptiness where your presence used to be. And this isn't to make him suffer. This is to let him understand the weight of your absence, the gravity of your presence, and the responsibility of having someone like you in his life. Men fall in love with presence, but they wake up because of absence. Letting him feel the void is also how you reclaim your power. When you stop running after someone, you reclaim your time. When you stop giving more than you receive, you reclaim your value. When you stop explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening, you reclaim your peace. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your distance becomes your message. Your absence becomes the mirror that shows him everything he ignored when you were close. And the men who truly care will not stay silent in that void. They will move towards you. They will reach out, step up, and try to close the distance. The men who never valued you will stay silent, and that, my friend, is your answer. Sometimes your presence is so powerful that the only way he can understand it is by losing it, not forever, not permanently, but long enough for him to recognize what he stands to lose if he doesn't change. And this isn't about being dramatic. This is about balance. Relationships thrive when effort is mutual, not one-sided. When love feels reciprocal, not draining. When both people invest, not when one person carries the emotional weight alone. The void teaches him what words couldn't. The silence teaches him what arguments didn't. The distance teaches him what your closeness tried to show him. And the truth is, if a man's feelings are real, the void will bother him. It will pull at him. It will make him realize that the connection he treated casually is actually something meaningful. But if he feels nothing, if your absence doesn't shake him, if he doesn't even notice you're gone, then your distance saved you from giving more to a man who was never emotionally invested in the first place. So letting him feel the void isn't about punishment. It's about discovery. It reveals the truth of his intentions and the strength of your worth. Because when a woman knows her value, she doesn't fight for a man's attention. She creates space for the right man to step up and earn her presence. The woman who knows her worth never loses. Ladies, let me leave you with this. At the end of the day, you don't make a man miss you by twisting yourself into knots or begging for his attention. You make him miss you by becoming a woman whose presence is valuable, whose absence is felt, and whose energy cannot be replaced. A woman with standards, a woman with boundaries, a woman who knows she deserves more than half love, half effort, and half attention. You don't win by chasing. You win by choosing yourself every single time. Because when you choose yourself, you move differently, you talk differently, you glow differently, you draw a different kind of man, one who's not intimidated by your strength, but inspired by it. One who's not confused about your value, but grateful for it. The truth is simple. A man can walk away from pressure, but he can't walk away from peace, respect, and a woman who loves herself. So if he pulls away, don't break down, level up. If he becomes distant, don't beg, breathe. If he takes you for granted, don't fight for a spot. Remove your presence and let him feel the silence. Because the right man, the man who's meant for you, will not let you slip away. He'll meet you at your standard, match your effort, and value your presence like the gift it is. Always remember, a woman who knows her worth doesn't fear losing a man. A man fears losing a woman who knows her worth. And that woman is you.